For a great cup of joe, there's one thing you should know. Your morning brew can also be playful. Buff Boy Brewing guys make the temperature rise, and you surely feel naughty when you swallow our coffee. If you want some real heat, give your mouth a fine treat. You will want some more, rest assured. Buff Boy Brewing, you can't get enough of.
It's time for The Scribble, your weekly fix of celebrity chats, bizarre stories in the news, and basic random chatter with best-selling author and syndicated radio host Jeremy Bradley. Make sure your seat is in the upright and locked position and your barf bag is securely in place. Here's Jeremy Bradley.
Thank you very much, Larson. Jeremy Bradley here. This is The Scribble. Thanks for tuning in at thescribbleshow.com, SoundCloud, and iTunes. Oh, I just had a rather embarrassing moments before going on the air. I'm going to tell you about that coming up in just a moment, but let's recap what's coming up on the show today. I've got 30 minutes of chatter, just so you know, and I'm going to talk about the delicate moment of funerals. It's, you got to tread lightly, and sometimes this involves seeing people that you're sort of uncomfortable around, right? Maybe you've had a falling out. Maybe you just, there's no relationship there anymore. I got a story about going to a funeral and see if it's something that you can relate to, and I also want to know how you would deal with it. Also, when you get into a new relationship, it's completely understandable that you want to make as much time for your partner as possible. You don't want to do anything to piss them off right away, but is there a point where you're running too much by them, almost getting permission for things? Got a story about that. And then again, my embarrassment spree that happened just a few minutes ago. I'll tell you what, it's going to be 30 minutes of time-wasting fun, and it starts on the Scribble right after this.
Who are the Kardashians feuding with now? What did that little thug Justin Bieber do this time? Who's getting hitched? And who's headed for Splitsville? Hear the latest celebrity news and gossip every day on Entertainment Wrap-Up. The good, the bad, the ugly, but mostly the ridiculously hilarious. It's all recapped in this daily segment at entertainmentwrapup.com. Have a laugh at the expense of the rich and famous when they take themselves way too seriously. It's 3 minutes of time-wasting fun at entertainmentwrapup.com. Check out Entertainment Wrap-Up at entertainmentwrapup.com. Brought to you by Speak Free Books.
Jeremy Bradley here. The Scribble continues on. It hasn't even started yet. What am I saying? I've had a day. Already, like I said, within 10 minutes, it just started. I sent an email to the wrong person. I was going to talk about the funeral story first, but because this is still on my mind, because I swear it literally happened like 10 minutes ago. It's on my mind. Have you ever sent an email to the wrong person? And even sometimes what happens is maybe you do a reply all and you forgot to take out the person that you're about to bitch about, right? And you want to have a kind of a laugh with some other people, or you want to, but then you realize like, ooh, crap, I didn't take them out and I just sent a really embarrassing email to that person and they shouldn't have seen this. Have you received one of those? I've never sent one like that, but I have received one. Actually, I'm going to tell you that story. Hold on, let me write down my bitchy email thing, and I'll come back to my email that I did. Years ago, when I was still booking some of the certain segments on our radio shows, I was very aggressive when it came to trying to get an answer when it comes to getting, content, a celebrity interview, some sort of content programming. And so I learned this from the Winnipeg Free Press when I was just in college and I was doing election nights in the newsroom, and they were very aggressive. They said, hey, your candidate wants to be in the newspaper tomorrow. I need to know where he's at 8:15. I need to know all the different phone numbers to reach him on, or he's not in the paper. And I remember sitting there and hearing that and going, wow, that's like really aggressive. That's pretty ballsy to talk to somebody like that. Especially I'm a student, right? They don't know my name from the paper, but I throw around the name of the paper and there's some clout there. And so that was kind of how we started booking our radio shows back in the day. And it works sometimes. I guess it depends if you have an established relationship or reputation is even probably the better way to say it. So we were working with a tourism board, and it's a tourism board that's sort of close to home, I'll say. So not anything that's international or foreign or anything like that. It's basically in the city where I was living. And so I had been getting flack from people because they're like, you're focusing on all these other cities. You've never done your hometown. Why don't you celebrate where you come from? I said, good point. And so it wasn't my actual city. Sorry, it was my province. And we were very aggressive on like, okay, we submitted your form. We've jumped through all these hoops. You wanted all this information. Where are we at? This is like 3 weeks. This is lingering. What's the deal? And so then the woman, the media contact, had replied and just again made it even more difficult. Like, well, we require this information, this information, this information, this information. And one of the colleagues does a reply all and says, "Good job, Julia!" ! And I thought, what's a good job? What does that mean? Obviously, there's something to that. Because if that's a standard kind of email that you would send, as a follow-up to a media outlet, why would your coworkers need to applaud you for that? And so it was very clear that they were being difficult, and so this just upped the ante. And I gotta tell you, when she realized, I don't even remember the woman's name that sent it, but I just remember Julia was the person who was the media rep and had to do damage control because it was funny as hell. They started freaking out. Now, the thing about this is that many tourism boards, not all, but many, are basically government. They can be considered a non-profit or whatever, but really they're set up by governments to promote regions, areas, right? And so the fact that you're kind of playing games like that, and you're a provincial government, you're a crown corporation of the provincial government. People in Canada understand what a crown corporation is. That's even more a no-no, I would say. And so the funniest thing was, within about, I would say not even 5 minutes, my office phone, my cell phone, and because I've got the display, I see who's calling, right? And I ignored all of the phone calls and the voicemails that were piling up. And it was just really funny. And so I laid low for a while, which of course is having them shit their pants at that point, right? And so then finally, I don't raise my voice. I don't I can pack a punch with my words though. If I'm sending you an email, I can be very, very direct, which I'll tell you about in a second, how I got onto this story. And so it was very clear that this woman screwed up. She knows she did. There were apologies like crazy. And so I thought, I'm going to be a shit disturber because you want to play games, you want to do this. I can fuck around with the best of them. I got nothing to lose on this one, right? I own our company, so it's up to me if I want to drag my company's name through the mud or whatever it is. Not that I want to, but you know what I'm saying? Like, if you're going to do a flame-throwing match, well, you're representing a brand that is not yours. I'm representing a brand that's mine. So I thought I got nothing to lose. So, they're not going to... It's not like you're giving me a free trip to the place I live, right? I mean, it's certainly not that. And so what I had done, because I just felt like being a dick, was I MP3'd the voicemails. I forwarded the emails and attached the voicemails and did a very long written commentary. And I sent that to the board members of the tourism office. Now, the board members are often business people, right? They're people from the business community. They could be CEOs, they could be owners, they could be whatever it is. And I just said, this is how the tourism board is working. And then I copied the Minister of Tourism and, everyone in her office. And I said, you know what, I'm going to be submitting this commentary to newspapers across the province. Because here I am with my media platform. And at the time, 300,000 radio listeners, whatever it was. So I'm just trying to help promote this province and where we live and show people what they can do and, all these things. Just innocent me. And this is what the tourism board is doing to me. And could you imagine the media outlets that they're brushing aside or whatever? It was sort of before the days of like bloggers and influencers and all that other crap, when real journalism and stuff was more prevalent. And I just stirred that pot. And so then the guy in charge, I don't remember if he was considered the executive director or whatever at the tourism office, president or so, had invited me to a meeting. And so I was ready to fight. I was not physical, right? I was ready. I had my tape recorder. I was ready to go. And I said, okay, let's talk about what happened. And they thought that I was coming in just to sort of bury the hatchet. They thought I was coming in to, have a make nice kind of a meeting and whatever. And I was like, no, I need to know why that email was sent. I just kind of want to know, like, why I was treated this way. Everything's going to be on the record. You know that I'm recording this. So they weren't really that all that welcoming to comment on the record or whatever. And there's like, well, no, we're trying to get past this. We actually want to, like, help do something now. And I had, ulterior motives when I went there. So anyway, so that's somebody who clearly regretted sending that email. I don't even know. I'd have to look them up on, I guess LinkedIn is the new thing. I've never been on LinkedIn in my life, but I should check out and see where is she now? If she's still there, I would crap my pants. But anyway, so about my email, it certainly wasn't anything like that. But we've been working with, we work with publicists all the time, and I will get emails directly from some of them pitching people, segments, whatever it is, because I've known them for years. Other times it's our segment producers who are seeking out people or what have you. And so I know that we were kind of waiting on something, a celebrity interview with a publicist, and we had talked about it just in the office a few minutes ago. And I said, like, well, no, I don't think that we've heard back. Like, what's the deal? They pitched this person to us. And you know how, at least on my BlackBerry, when you're sending an email, so let's say I'm typing Jim Brown. Well, if there have been people copied on an email to Jim Brown in the past, it'll kind of bring up suggestions, right, like of other people. Or if I email, like, let's say my mom, my brothers might come up as suggestions because we've done a group email before. You know what I mean? So because these two publicists, they're not related, but they were part of a same project before, but they represent different people. So let's say it would be like the cast of a TV show. Well, one is the publicist for this actor, one is the publicist for this actor, one is the, right? And so I had just sent a very direct email, I think it was like 2 sentences. Where are we at with this? You pitched, celebrity name, to us, and this has gone nowhere. And just as I hit send, I kind of realized in that moment, I was like, crap, that's not the right person. Now, they both publicists have a J name, so that's kind of where I got kind of lost and confused. And so right after I hit send, there's still the little clock symbol, as though, like, it's sending, it's thinking, it's doing its thing. So then I just hit I hit the delete button right away. And I was like, okay, good, I deleted it. But then there's that fear of, does it delete it? Does it stop sending it, though, when you do that? Or not? Did the person still get it? So naturally, I go and... Thankfully, that publicist that it went to, the wrong person, I've worked with for many, many years. And so I just sent a new email, subject line, my bad, that was meant for, so-and-so, because she would look at that and go, I'm not even representing that person. What are you talking about? So, obviously it was just a case of the wrong person. And so I was like, oh my God, okay, I can't believe that. And then we're talking like maybe 5 minutes after that, not even. I'm getting ready about to come in here to do the podcast, and I get a call on my phone, and I thought I have a Los Angeles cell phone number, and so lately there have been calls about the election. Not robocalls, but just kind of like, hey, can we count on your support kind of a thing? And that's honestly what I thought it was. So I answered the phone because I also like to screw around with them sometimes. So I answered it. It wasn't, an area code that I recognized. Generally, I really only get calls from certain, New York area, California, whatever. And so I just answered it, and I was like, yeah, you're on the air. Go. And the person's like, hello? Hi, this is so-and-so from such and such office, and it's actually a company that we deal with. It wasn't a telemarketer. It wasn't a, I don't know, what do you call them? Spam call, robocall, whatever. It was legitimate phone call. And I guess for some reason, maybe it looked like a number that's come up before, and I just kind of associated with that. And maybe I was still on the brink of that email embarrassment. And so I was like, oh, hi, sorry. I was just running into the studio. So sorry, I was a little bit, abrupt there or whatever. But yeah. That was kind of embarrassing too. So I was 0 for 2 on the bitchiness today. Kind of embarrassing, too. So anyway, have you done this? I want to hear from you. Send me an email, live at jbonair.com. Make sure you send it to the right person. Live at jbonair.com. Live at jbonair.com. So have you ever just forgot to take the person out of the reply all? Did you send it to the wrong, Jeremy or the wrong Bob or the wrong Dave? And have you ever done that? And secondly, have you been on the receiving end of one and had somebody had to do the damage control after? I'd love to hear those stories. Live at jbonair.com. Speaking of the delicious awkwardness, running into people at a funeral. That story's coming up next on The Scribble.
Isn't it crazy that you wait for payday, but before you know it, you're strapped for cash again? It's time to stop blowing your money and become a smart spender with the book, The Official Guide to Being an American Cheapskate at cheapskatebook.com. Learn simple ways to cut costs at home every day and during special times of the year. Don't go broke at Christmas. Don't remortgage the house for a fancy vacation. The book is filled with tips to save you money throughout the year. Check out the best-selling book, The Official Guide to Being an American Cheapskate at cheapskatebook.com or on Amazon and iTunes.
Ever had something to get off your chest but never had the balls to say it? That's a load of crap. Speak Free with JB.com is exactly what you've been waiting for. Your chance to tell it like it is and not care what anybody else thinks. Have your say on issues of the day. Join newspaper and radio columnist Jeremy Bradley as he tells it like it is. Hundreds of thousands of people have stopped by, including some well-known celebrities who have had a chat with JB and speak candidly about what's really going on in the world. You can join them too. Have a rant or a rave. Be brave and head on over to www.speakfreewithjb.com now.
We are back here on The Scribble. Didn't realize that I just blew through half of the show on that story. Oh, well. There's just times when you need to vent, right? Like, I can't believe what I did. I'm laughing about it now, but certainly, if this was somebody who, I'd maybe dealt with one time 6 years ago, and all of a sudden they're getting an email from me tearing them apart about something totally unrelated, I'd be like, maybe the wrong person, and you're a jerk, bye. So, all right, I was at a funeral a couple of weeks ago, and I realized that this is sort of, I guess it's a story about etiquette, really, and how you run into somebody. We've all run into somebody that we're not expecting to see, right? Somewhere. Maybe it's an ex, maybe it's your friend's ex, and you're not supposed to like them or talk to them or want to see them alive, but you do, and so do you talk to them? What do you do? Well, at a funeral, you almost kind of think that that's going to be neutral ground. I think we talked about this earlier in the year when my aunt had died, and there were some people who, my cousins or whoever aren't in that relationship with somebody anymore, but they knew my aunt for many years, right? So you sort of put down your weaponry and you go to show support, right? Because you cared about that person. You might not care about our family now, but, it's just you're paying respect. That's the term that you use, right? You pay your respects. So it's one thing at a funeral when it's a family member. So I was there with former colleagues, former coworkers of a place that I had been at years ago. And I know that my boss from that place was fired. He was fired when I worked there. And again, we're talking, not quite 15 years ago, but anyway, a long time ago. And it was a reunion of sorts, right? Because we just haven't seen each other. And so it's kind of like, well, it was nice to see everybody, but obviously it's on terrible terms, right? So it's not a good reunion, but it is nice to see people. And so it was kind of weird because obviously time has passed, but then you still kind of wonder, like, is he bitter that he was fired? And now, like, the vice president who fired him is going to be at this funeral. And the people who, said some really bad things that ended up getting around to him after he was fired were also going to be at this funeral. And so I had arrived at the same time as him. We were in the parking lot outside at the same time. And and honestly, with him, I've texted that guy maybe once every 6 months. And it's because we just have a mutual contact, a mutual business connection anyway. And so, if he needed some information or whatever it was. So we're certainly not like buddy where we talk all the time. Like I said, we haven't seen each other in years. So we got there at the same time, and he was there with his wife, and we basically went into the church together. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. Like, I'll sit with you. And I was sort of wondering, like, is the old gang gonna all sit together? You know, because really we only just know the coworker. It was the coworker's mom who died, and you know, like, we don't know the rest of the family. We know of them because he talked about them all the time. His mom had been sick for many years, almost 15 years or so. And so she survived quite a long time. So, you know, that was great. The family got many more years with her. But there's this politics of like, okay, well, we're going down the aisle of the church, and the person who fired the former boss is right on the end of an aisle. And so she happened to look up right as we were about to walk there, and she said hi to him. I was behind, and I said hi to her. And I thought, is he going to go down that aisle and sit beside her? She was all by herself. You know, I thought, this is perfect. There's plenty of room for all of us, however many people are coming. But he didn't. He went 2 or 3 rows up. And I sat with him there. And then I guess a couple other people from back in the day saw her because she was closer to the back of the church where everybody was coming in. And so I just think that they probably sat with her. So there was this whole row, and now I'm with the fired guy, you know, 3 or 4 rows in front of them, and everybody obviously is staring at the back of our heads the whole time. So again, I could give 2 craps about, you know, what these people are doing now, or, you know, any sort of drama, but it was just really funny because it wasn't until we were in that moment where I was like, oh, this almost looks like, does it look like I'm taking sides? Does it seem like, you know, I'm with him, you guys are all a bunch of jerks? I didn't know how to you know, kind of deal with that. And then so of course I'm not into the church thing, so all of the readings or whatever I totally tuned out. And I was sitting there going, okay, when this is all over, it's also going to be really strange because we're going to have to see the guy that we all know. And again, we only know him, so it's not like we're going to be randomly talking to, you know, other people there. So it stands to reason that we're going to congregate basically in the same, we're going to congregate around him because he's going to want to talk to us. He's going to want to see us. And so for a moment, this is the sick part of my personality. I was like, this is going to be deliciously awkward. Like, you know, are these people, have they buried the hatchet? Have they moved on after all these years? I'd hope so. And no, they did not. They didn't even talk. So the people that were in the rows behind us, 4 rows behind us, had obviously then left the church before we did, right? Because you exit, you know, the back rows first. And they went right up the back into the little area where there was the lunch and the dainties and the coffee and what have you. And so it took us, the 2 of us, quite a while to actually leave the church ourselves. And so the group had gone to see the former coworker. They all had their words with him, you know, the hugs and all that other stuff. And there were a few people in between us and that group, me and my former boss, and then the group in front of us. And so I was kind of like, oh, hi, yeah, how are you? Yeah, it's been a long time. Yeah, it's sad. And everybody was just ignoring the former boss. And the boss's wife was with him, and I heard her say, is this awkward for you? And I almost wanted to just be like, yeah, how could it not be? Again, I didn't want to be too much of a jerk. So what do you think about this? Is a funeral sort of like neutral territory where you kind of forget what it is? And again, time had passed, right? It's not like the guy was just fired, you know, a week ago and, you know, the awkwardness ensues. But clearly they had no interest in talking to each other. I was able to socialize with them, no problem, but it was kind of just strange. Oh, and I totally forgot. Then the guy who replaced the boss, so we'll call him boss number 2. So the guy who, so boss number 1 was fired. So the guy that comes in to replace him, boss number 2, was also there. Now they had never met, so I don't even think they knew who each other was. But that was also kind of like, is new boss gonna run into old boss? Like, how is that gonna go? So again, not that would have mattered, but I guess that could be considered like that whole like running into the ex and seeing their new boyfriend girlfriend kind of a thing. But anyway, it was really, maybe I was hoping for hair pulling and you know, a bit of a scene, housewives kind of a scene, but it didn't happen. So what do you think? Is a funeral fair game? Send me an email, live@jbonair.com, live@jbonair.com. Yeah, it was just strange. It was really strange to, yeah, you know, obviously time hasn't healed those wounds, and it wasn't a huge dramatic firing or anything, but I guess it was just like, yeah, you guys fired me and I was embarrassed by it, and I can understand where he's coming from. So live at jbonair.com. Speaking of relationships, I've got a story that I also want your opinion on when we come back.
It's never too early to start thinking about your next holiday. Have you checked out Mexico recently? From tequila tasting, swimming with horses, to ziplining through the jungle and watching whales and dolphins in their natural habitat, Puerto Vallarta has it all. Visit mexico.jbonair.com to see all the fun PV has to offer. That's at mexico.jbonair.com for hundreds of photos, interviews, and videos from around the tourist hotspot. Check out mexico.jbonair.com for all the fun. That's mexico.jbonair.com.
Ever had something to get off your chest but never had the balls to say it? That's a load of crap. Speak Free with JB.com is exactly what you've been waiting for. Your chance to tell it like it is and not care what anybody else thinks. Have your say on issues of the day. Join newspaper and radio columnist Jeremy Bradley as he tells it like it is. Hundreds of thousands of people have stopped by, including some well-known celebrities who have had a chat with JB and speak candidly about what's really going on in the world. You can join them too. Have a rant or a rave. Be brave and head on over to www.speakfreewithjb.com now.
Jeremy Bradley here on the Scribble. Oh, this is where I have to do that YouTube. Remember to subscribe to the podcast. Click the button. I don't know. I always hate when people do that. I hate it. I just hate it. Remember, click the bell to get notifications. It's like, just because you're telling me that, now I'm totally not going to. Anyway, so relationships are an interesting thing. I said at the top of the show that you want to impress your partner when you're just starting out, right? You kind of want to be open, you want to communicate, but is there a sense of over-communication, and is that a problem right when you get started? Here's the deal. Someone that I know got into a very brand new relationship, and I had said, well, you know what, let's, what are you doing for lunch today? Do you want to go for lunch? And I got the reply, well, I've got to check with him. Sorry, let me check with him and see if it's okay. And I replied back. I said, oh, did you guys have plans? Like, if you do, then whatever, no biggie. It doesn't have to be today. And the reply was, no, we didn't have plans. And that's where it hit me. I was like, wait a second. You have been my friend for however many years. You know, it's not like we didn't just meet on the internet yesterday. We've had a friendship for several years. And we've seen that person through, you know, relationships before. But never have I been told, well, I just actually got to check with him, make sure it's okay. I just let me ask if it's okay. That'll be the day that I'm going to check with a partner to see if it's okay to go for lunch with somebody. If your person is that, you know, insecure or possessive, controlling, jealous, whatever word you want to use, get out. Get out of the relationship as soon as you can. I'm not a relationship expert. I'm not a therapist, psychologist, anything like that. But that'll be the day that I'm going to be that controlled. Like I said, it's different if, we were supposed to go shopping, or, we were talking about it, but I'm not sure if we're doing lunch today. Okay, cool. I get it. But running it by, is it okay if I go for lunch with Jeremy today? That will be the day. Would you be offended if your friend, who again, I don't know how many years, let's say you've known them for 10 years. Your friend of 10 years says that to you when you just send a text like, hey, you want to get together, want to go for coffee, want to do it, that they got to check with their new person who's been in the picture for all of 12 minutes? Would you be offended? Would you say something to your friend? How would you react? What would be your response? Send me an email, live@jbonair.com, live@jbonair.com. I could not believe it. And I guess it also brings up the question then is, do you have a conversation about your relationship? Do you go and say, you know what, it's not an ultimatum of like, you pick him or me, but do you go and say like, I'm sorry, I've been around a long time. I have seen you through how many relationships? What do? Send me an email, live@jbonair.com, live@jbonair.com.
We hear you chirping. Get scribbling. Tweet up the Scribble at The Scribble Show. Join the discussion with Jeremy Bradley. It's all going down right now on Twitter @The Scribble Show and @thescribbleshow.com.
Sorry, we've got less than a minute left. And of course, right as we're hearing that Twitter thing, someone in the room says, well, it depends how long you've been in the relationship. Sorry, so it's okay to be controlling if you've been together for 5 years? Is that what you're saying? Oh my God, we don't have time to... That is a horrible thing to say. Is it okay to be controlled if you've been in the relationship with the person for 5 years? Oh my God. Live at jbonair.com. My name is Jeremy Bradley. This is The Scribble. I will talk to you same time, same place next week. And I think we've got a special edition from San Francisco on the podcast next week. Bye-bye, everybody.
Want more Scribble? Check out thescribbleshow.com for past shows, celebrity interviews, cheapskate tips, and more. That's at thescribbleshow.com and on Twitter at The Scribble Show. The Scribble is a speak-free media presentation.
If you want some real heat